Call this meeting to order. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. One change to the agenda, we are moving up 5A presentation to right after the approval of the agenda. So if there's any motions, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So move.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Chief Mouse, presentation of our new police officer, Alyssa.
Go ahead and raise your right hand, Alyssa, and then repeat after me. I,
I,
Alyssa Ingerfer,
Alyssa Ingberg,
have been duly appointed as a police officer for the city of Melrose,
have been duly appointed as a police officer for the city of Melrose
and the state of Minnesota,
in the state of Minnesota.
do solemnly swear that I will defend,
Do solemnly swear that I will defend,
enforce, and obey
enforce, and obey
the Constitution and laws of the United States,
the Constitution and laws of the United States,
the state of Minnesota, and the laws and ordinances of the city of Melrose,
the state of Minnesota, and the laws and ordinances of the city of Melrose,
that I will obey the lawful orders of my superior officers and the regulations of the Melrose Police Department,
that I will obey the laws, lawful orders of my superior officers and the regulations of the Melrose Police Department,
that I will protect the rights, lives, and property of all citizens and uphold the honor of the police profession.
that I will protect the rights, lives, and property of all citizens and uphold the honor of the police profession.
With my life, if need be, to the best of my ability, so help me God.
With my life, if need be, to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Let them take some pictures up here. Yeah. Craig, you want to take some pictures, please?
We sure can.
And do we at least get to shake your hand?
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Glad you're here. So, all right, so you guys want to... Again, Alyssa, we're really glad you're here. We're glad you're going to be part of our community, and
Thank you.
look forward to seeing you around. All right. All right, we are on to approval of the consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. We're going to be on to open forum. And I'm just going to read this here. Thank you for your attendance at the City Council meeting here this evening. The city has received a request from the Church of St. Mary's to demolish the existing church structure located at 203 Fifth Avenue Southeast, which sustained an arson fire in March 2016. The church was required to complete a mandatory environmental assessment worksheet known as an EAW per Minnesota Administrative Rules 4410.4300, subpart 31. Historical places because it is on the National Historical Registry. The EAW is a brief document designed to lay out the basic facts of a project necessary to determine if an environmental impact statement is required. in addition to the legal purpose of an EAW, in determining the needs of an EIS, the EAW also provides permit information, informs the public about the project, and helps identify ways to protect the environment. The EAW is not meant to approve or deny a project, but instead act as a source of information to the guide other approvals and permitting decisions. The courts have ruled that the city has no say in the use or the demolition of the church structure. Tonight's meeting is not a public hearing, but an opportunity for the council to discuss the EAW and make a recommendation as to the next steps in the process. So the open forum is open to people to talk. A lot of stuff has been said over many a few council meetings already, so we are willing to give 2 to 3 minutes for people to talk. We only have 3 people that have signed up, so people do have a right to speak their opinion in front of the council. I would just ask to be respectful to one another and try to bring up, maybe some things we do not know about. But we have had, all of us have had our opinions on everything here, so the city of Melrose does welcome you to voice your, 3 minutes to talk. So without that, this is the only time anybody's going to be able to talk. Because when it comes to down to action items, there's no speaking. And that's going to be it, okay? So if anybody would like to speak, Patty, if you can name off the first person.
Thank you to the council for letting me speak. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, sir.
As Eric Hansen, attorney for Friends to Restore St. Mary's, stated in his 5-page letter to the Melrose City Administrator, buildings on the National Register of Historic Places enjoy special protection under Minnesota law. The question before the City Council is not whether the historic church may be demolished, but whether the environmental assessment worksheet needs an environmental impact statement, as required by state law. It seems that Mr. Hansen feels all the issues have not been adequately addressed. I'm not an attorney, but it appears to me that the City Council might be getting into some very deep legal water. But there's another issue here. This is a closely knit community, and I would guess that the majority of the people in this room are descended from the pioneers that built that magnificent structure. If that church is demolished, there is no symbol left as a monument to their memory. Does anyone with a sense of tradition really want that? Thank you.
Next is Santino Wallace.
Thank you, Council, for allowing me to speak. I don't have a whole lot different to say than Dad, but I just want to reiterate this is a very, very important building to the culture of this community. It's fine that there's a new church being built. I've come to terms with that. But we don't want to see the demolition of the heritage of this community. There are grants available to restore. There are things that we can do with this building. I really believe that due diligence has not been done as far as the environmental impact of the demolition. It isn't just materials that affect the environment, the waste of the materials that it was built with, but they're tearing down a culture. They're tearing down history, and that's what we don't want to see happen. So I request that everyone think very, very hard about this before a decision is made. This is a life-changing decision that affects the future of this community. Thank you.
Alan Schulzenberg.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. As a member of the Melrose JC's many years ago, they had a saying, if it is to be, it's up to me. I guess that's why I'm up here. I also had the acronym they're fond of, PACE, positive attitudes change everything. We could find something to do with this building. My feeling is something is better than nothing. We have enough empty lots, gravel spaces in Melrose or grass spaces. We don't need any more of those. And I think that there should be a willingness to look at the options of what we can do with this. This is an opportunity to involve the community in many different things, as I put in my letter to the Beacon. And I think it would be good not only for the community, but it would also be good for the parish. Because if you can smooth this situation over, you can bring a lot of people back and redo a lot of the divisions that we've experienced in this town. So I know this is an emotional issue, but you know, we don't want to rehash and get into fights. I just would wish that there was some sincere thinking about something better rather than spending money, tearing it down, and having nothing. Thank you.
Jerry Ossendorf.
Okay,
Jerry
yep.
Ossendorf.
Thank you. I too have been a member of this community for a long time. That church means a lot to me because some of my ancestors helped build it, and my grandfather was a custodian there for several years. The purpose of Friends to Restore from the get-go was to preserve that building. We have spent many hours traveling to and talking about things that could happen in that building were it not to be torn down. I did get a reconstruction specialist in to examine the building, Doug Henning from Henning Restorations, who has rebuilt many churches in a 5-state area. And he said that that church is easily restorable. Braun Intertech certified it as being sound. So there really is no reason for it to be torn down. And in fact, I believe the gentleman sitting at the table there passed a resolution early on stating that we should preserve that because it's a historic building in Melrose. Not many of them left anymore. I applaud Jim and Lisa Ilias for their efforts. They had a fire in the building adjacent theirs, and they spent a lot of money getting that repaired to preserve it. Heritage is important. The new church is being built. We have no problem with that, other than we're not going to use our money to pay for it. But we do want to preserve the old and repurpose it. We have been to a couple of meetings and several things have come up, and we would discuss them with anyone that would want to, but the point is it has to be standing for us to accomplish any of those goals. There are lots of grants out there, and there are lots of people willing to help us get those grants to accomplish that task. Please consider that strongly this evening. Thank you.
Would there be anybody else that would like to speak? You're more than willing to come up. Do you want to just state your name for the record here?
Vern Hollerman. I've been in this parish for 80 years. I had birthday October 12th. But anyway, our ancestors built that church. My grandpa had a lot to do with building that church. My whole family worked in that church. And it needs to be preserved because of our ancestors built it, and every time there's been something done to the church, in in 1958, it was all tuck pointed and redone with the cement in between bricks. And the bell towers have been redone. It's been restored, things have been done to the church to keep it up, and we need to keep it up. We need to go for it. We need to have something to say here. This is ours. This is our ancestors built it. And it boggles my mind when I think of how it was built in 1898 with horses digging a hole, and the bells were pulled up on ramps to get up there and stuff like that. And we need to restore the church and repurpose it for something else, that, like anything that can be done to it, just to keep it there. Because it is, in my opinion, is the last historical building in Melrose, Minnesota. Thank you.
Would anybody else like to come up and say both sides? The city is leaving it open for people to speak.
Hello, my name is Bridget Salzman, and I'm a member of the Melrose community for over 55 years. So I've spent a lot of time in that church. I was formerly a teacher at St. Mary's School, so I taught religion as one of the basics of my class was the church is the people. And I only have one short comment to make, and that is that churches are often both the oldest and most beautiful buildings in our communities. Therefore, they are the rock that continues to sustain us as we people, bringing us together in service and worship. And again, there are many, many organizations that will help. One that I have had contact with, excuse me, is Partners for Sacred Places. It's one of the only national, non-sectarian, nonprofit organizations dedicated to the sound stewardship and active community use of America's oldest religious properties. So there are many opportunities to get help to save the church structure. Again, I'm not saying anything against building the new church. That's fine. The community wanted that, but I just think when people come into a community, the first thing they usually look for are the church, to see what the church looks like. And Melrose has one of the most unique churches as far as our steeple design, and I think that it should be taken into consideration. Once it's gone, you can never get it back. Thank you.
All right, is there anybody else would like to speak? Okay, we are done with the open forum. And now we are on to reports. The general fund quarterly report, Tessa.
Good evening. I have the third quarter quarterly reports. The general fund revenue is about 57% of our budget. As you know, we'll be receiving the second half of our property taxes in December, which is a large portion of that, as well as our local government aid from the state. Otherwise, with the revenues, we have interest income is quite a bit over budget for the year, and we've just been working to utilize our funds to increase the yields for that. Expenses are slightly under the third quarter building fees we pay in October. For the ambulance fund, they're right on track. Revenue is at 80%, expenses are at 65%. The fire fund always typically runs low until the end of the year. That's when all of the contract payments are made, as well as the salaries are made in December. Our special revenue funds, you'll notice, look kind of out of whack. We have a CDBG grant fund that we hadn't budgeted for, so there was significant grant proceeds from the state, and in turn we paid those out, which increased the expenses. For the capital project fund, a large portion of the revenue source is the transfers we make from the general fund. We do that twice a year, so the second half will be done in December. And then we also have some of the remaining capital payments from the street projects that were paid in the beginning of the fourth quarter. In debt service funds, we've made all of our payments for the year, but again, with the general fund, we receive the rest of the property taxes in December. Does anybody have any questions? Thank you.
All right. Chief Mouse?
Good evening. Our October 2019 numbers in a traffic area, we had 19 citations issued, 185 verbal warnings, and 4 written warnings. We had 313 calls and requests for service this year. Last year was 441. Last year's ICR at this time was 4429, and this year we're at 3667. So we're down about 762 calls for the year, and we're actually on more of a trend for the 2017 numbers than 2018. 24 agency assists is pretty consistent. Overall for that area, those numbers are pretty normal for us. A few areas I want to highlight are school patrol flag violations, as well as school bus arm violations are way down from years past. So we definitely appreciate people watching out for the young people that are being crossing the roads, the flags that are out, as well as the school buses. So that's been a good thing to see, especially for this early in the school year. Another area, next Friday will be the holiday kickoff with the parade. We will be shutting Main Street down at about 6 o'clock. They'll be closed down through the parade until the fireworks. A lot of that is due to safety for everybody coming to watch the parade, as well as there's going to be a fun run from, I believe it's 6:15 to 6:30 by Centric here. So we will be shutting down Main Street at 6 p.m. We'll post signs, we'll post everything we can early enough in the day, but we'd appreciate no parking on Main Street from basically 5th Avenue by Unique Boutique down to Colburn's on Main Street. So we'll have plenty of barricades around and whatever else, but wanted everybody to be aware of that. Questions?
Thanks, Chief. City Attorney report, Scott?
Yeah, just 2 items on my report this evening. First, the Sprint lease that's been discussed off and on, I think now for several meetings. We've got some progress to report on that. Hoping that we will be able to come back to the council at the December meeting with a lease for your approval. And with the Sprint lease, we're talking about the cell phone antennas on the south water tower. The Sprint has that site. The other one is then time spent on the EAW with St. Mary's. I won't make a lot of comments about that unless the council has questions, as we've got additional time on that later in the meeting. We can address that then also.
Anything more from the council? Thank you.
All right, thanks, Scott. Community Development Director, Lisa.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you tonight is the preliminary and final plat of Jenny Acres. That'll be a little bit later on the agenda. The Planning Commission recommended approval of the plat with conditions on September 30th, and that is ready to be approved by the council this evening. Fourth quarter building permits to date, we have 12 with valuation of $667,089. Staff's been working on trying to get some multifamily, market rate multifamily in Melrose. Also, the Penn Tom multifamily project is working on some possible layouts and anticipates coming forward with a revised plan, potentially needing variances and or doing joint parking with the Aplex next door. The Hector fence was installed in the right-of-way. We discussed at the previous meeting, and the city attorney's drafted a letter asking the fence be removed from the right-of-way. Signage, we're working on directional signage for both the food shelf and Meadowlark Park. And park dedication, when we reviewed the fees, staff did a little bit of research on park dedication fees and put together the Sauk Center and Albany fee rates for comparison purposes, and that's included in your packet and can be discussed more during the fee schedule portion of the agenda. One business in town has put up a roof structure, a canvas type roof structure attached to 2 cargo containers, and staff has informed them, building official sent a letter giving them until November 13th to comply with city codes. He also went out and visited with them on November 4th, and they stated they are not willing to comply, nor have they complied by the deadline. So staff is looking for some direction as we move forward with that.
No, gotta follow the ordinance. That's final. Okay. City Administrator report.
As Lisa said, I've been working with the Community Development Director on several economic development projects, including housing, commercial development, as well as broadband. Myself and the Finance Director have been working through job description and addressing the long-term needs of the city center staffing and also budgeting. There was a joint meeting with the council and the PUC this week, and there was a decision to move forward with posting for a receptionist position at City Hall. So that is actually out on our Facebook page as well as our website. And so that's a posting. We're looking for a receptionist. We're not adding additional folks to the city. We're simply readjusting some of the job descriptions that we have and making it align better with where we want to go long-term as an organization. The wastewater treatment facility, we continue to work with the consultants and staff on pre-design of the wastewater treatment facility improvements. We're currently developing funding strategies regarding that particular facility, and we're hoping to present a bond request to the state this year at the legislature. We are also in the process of renegotiating what are called significant industrial user agreements. Organization and planning, we're actually working with a particular planning platform, and we're looking to implement that for staff regarding project management. So far, it's being tested out, and it seems that staff is really liking it. So we'll see where that lands. We'll probably be coming back. It's actually not a very budget. It's a very budget-friendly item, so it's not something that's going to cost us a significant amount of money. We continue to address the mechanical systems here at City Center and plan for future upgrades, sidewalk, and also developing a maintenance logs on all the city-owned buildings so that we get a better handle on when things need to be replaced, that type of thing. Again, working with the street supervisor on several miscellaneous projects and future planning for street sidewalks and parks. WSB has had some staffing changes, and we will not present costs and timelines related to the RDB this evening. However, we will be back on December 12th. Right before the meeting this evening, we had a 2-hour meeting, and we had several people in the room, and we had a conference call with several other people that will be in, that have permitting authority relative to the RDB project. So we had the Corps, a representative from the Corps of Engineers. We had the DNR, one person from the DNR present in the room. We also had another representative from the DNR on the phone, as well as Soil and Water Conservation District and other of our WSB folks. So and Jody from the Highway Department was also in the meeting, as well as Scott Henderson, who is the director for this, the watershed district. So it was an extremely productive meeting. And I think that by December 12th, we will be able to bring back some good information for the council, along with some timelines. As Scott had indicated, we worked through a lease with Sprint. They seemed on the onset to be very amiable to how we're switching the lease up, and they didn't really see a lot of problems with it. So hopefully that is also going to be something that we can present to the council on December 12th. All the departments, we are establishing fees for 2020. We'll be talking about that at our budget workshop after this. And then the other thing is the EAW for St. Mary's. Again, that will be addressed under a separate item on the agenda. With that, Mayor, I have, Mr. Mayor, I have no other comments, and I open it up to any questions that the mayor or council may have.
Okay. Any questions?
Sounds good.
Questions?
No questions. No questions.
Okay. All right. So that takes us into action items. I'll go through this. Resolution number 2019-51, resolution postponing a decision for declaration of a need for an environmental impact statement. I am going to turn this over to you, Colleen.
Okay. As the mayor had indicated when he opened up the meeting this evening before the public forum, there was an EAW that was conducted by the Church of St. Mary for the demolition of the church that was damaged by fire. The council is a responsible government unit charged with reviewing the environmental assessment worksheet. The purpose of the EAW is to determine the potential for environmental impacts, determine the need for an environmental impact statement, and inform permitting decisions. The EAW comment period ended on October 30th, 2019. There were several letters provided as part of the EAW process, including one from the Department of Administration, State Historic Preservation Office. The State Historic Preservation Office has requested a Level 1 MHRP document be created to mitigate the loss of the Church of St. Bonifacius, Church of St. Mary. The request is a recommendation and is not mandatory, as this is not a federal project. When staff reviewed the comment letter from SHPO, that's the State Historic Preservation Office, the acronym is SHPO, staff contacted the letter writer, Sarah Beams, to get further clarification on what is required as far as the Level 1 MHRP documentation. Ms. Beamers basically stated that they're recommending this documentation because of the fact that the church is on the National Register of Historic Places and is one of the most architecturally significant church buildings in this part of the state. Upon a follow-up phone call with Ms. Beamers, I wanted to find out, I asked what existing historic information does SHPO have that could qualify as meeting the requirement of the Level 1? And she simply stated, you just have to send your information in. The problem is there's two different documents regarding historic properties, and to date, we've not been able to get a clear response from SHPO as to what they would like to see. Further, in reviewing all this, Attorney Demick reviewed the letters submitted for the EAW and expressed his concern that item 19, which addresses cumulative potential effects, was responded to as not applicable for that particular part of the EAW. So myself and the Community Development Director Atkinson also met with the church, including Father Anglican Gary Waltz and their attorney, Adam Ripple, on Monday, November 11th, to discuss the SHPO letter along with other details. The church indicated their willingness to provide additional narrative as to why they felt that cumulative potential effects was not applicable or how it is going to deal with this in other parts of the EAW. The church stated that they are not willing to capture any large format historical photos or invest any funds of significance in historical photos or documentation, stating that the information that is out there relative to memorializing the history of the church exists. So what we have asked as staff is that the church respond to SHPO's comments regarding how they intend to document, show, or have available the history of the church. At this time, Mr. Mayor and Council, I am recommending that the Council, through resolution, require additional time of up to 30 days to make or until December 12th to make a final determination on the environmental review process.
Okay. All right, discussion.
I mean, I know I talked to Scott about it. Did sound like something of concern. Not sure if everybody else agrees, but if it's something that's as simple enough as sending 2 pictures in, or to make sure that it stands with what is it, SHPO? I mean, I'm fine with it, but I'm looking out more for the city in whole, not just the, people that are part of the parish. I mean, it's, I just don't want to have it fall back on everybody else's, tax-paying people that aren't part of the parish that would get tied up in having to pay for that too, so.
Okay.
Well, as a responsible government unit, I think that we are fulfilling the needs that in this particular situation. I guess my feeling is that we don't own this structure. We don't own this property. It belongs to the diocese. The diocese has made the decision as what they're going to do with the building, and obviously the new one is under construction. And I looked through again today 3 different court rulings, 2 court rulings and an affirmation by the Minnesota State Supreme Court that says that the church can do what they, the diocese can do what they want with that property. So we're not the one that's taking the wrecking ball to the building. We're just following the guidelines for the EAW and the EIS.
Travis?
I would agree if they're recommending this step that we should move forward with getting that information, that whether the church is tore down or not, this piece of what they're asking for, I think sounds like it's required or would be good information to have.
Mm-hmm. Tony?
Yeah, I have no problem asking for another 30 days or to research the requirements. The only thing I would add is obviously it's not easy to just sit here and talk all politically correct and stuff when you also personally outside these chambers have your own personal feelings. That being said, the only thing I would like to say is please give it some consideration to work with the 2 groups to see if you can come up with something that would satisfy both parties. I don't know that the building, there's any reason for it to be torn down other than not wanting to put money into it. I think there's a group that is more than willing to go the extra mile and figure out how to fund anything that needs to be done with it. However that looks, I don't know. But if we have another 30 days, maybe the 2 groups could get together, try to work something out.
And
I think it would go a long way to, as I believe Mr. Schulzenberg alluded to, healing the division. Gets torn down, I think that division will stay for a generation or more. So That being said, I'll just leave it up to the rest of you, so.
And Councilman Clausen, I think the key portion of your phrase, and very aptly put, was the two groups get together and make the decision.
Yes.
This is not our decision to remove or not
Correct.
remove this structure. If the diocese was receptive to the restoration group somehow managing to come up with funds to make that building inhabitable again, that's between the two groups. But it's gonna take a substantial amount of funding to make that building to where it can be reutilized for some purpose. And I just don't want to be sitting in one of these meetings 2 or 3 years from now trying to figure out what's going to become of a structure that's still sitting there that has some substantial fire damage and now is in a further state of decay because it's been 3.5 years that it's been sitting there.
Before, are you good? Are you good? Okay. Before I forget, Annie, did you want to say anything? Was there anything that needed to be said? Okay.
If you have questions on the technical aspects.
Yeah.
Not at this point.
No.
I don't.
Yeah. I guess I do have some of the same concerns Tony and Bunker have. When I look in this crowd, there's a lot of pride that goes out the window compared to what we were like 4 years ago as a community. We were a real tight-knit parish, a very vibrant parish, and both sides have done a lot of damage to each other, which it's not going to be solved in our lifetimes. You know, I just hope we know, the bishop blames the parish council. The council blames the bishop for what happened. I don't know who's at fault, who's lying or what. It's not my job to know or my job to really even care anymore. We're still a community. We can't be run from someone in St. Cloud to, hurt each other anymore. We got to find a way to become a community again. Other communities have had a lot worse things happen. We definitely got to find a way to become a community of Melrose again. Maybe not a community of St. Mary's Parish anymore, but we really got to go out of our way when we're out on the streets. Say hello to each other. That's what community is. We might disagree on some things, but sometimes we have to fight for each other. Church doctrine is very complicated and can be interpreted so many different ways. Same as the U.S. Constitution. And we look what our country's going through now. It should never happen. Two sides are controlling so much. I can't recite church doctrine, but I do study quite a bit. I do try to study, the Constitution a little bit, or, one of my favorite lines, though, is from the Declaration of Independence. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursue variably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such governments and to provide a new safeguard for their future securities. It means if there's something wrong, those who have the ability to take action have the responsibility to take action. We have to help each other. We have to find a way to make this work. Church has the Constitution on its side, but we still are people. We have to love each other. We have to find ways to bring everybody back together. Will it happen? I don't know. But we all have to make steps to go out to the person that we do not like right now and apologize. Someone you don't like, it's about time we all start apologizing to each other and talk. Not badmouth them in the streets. It's not what we're here for as a community. We're a community it's done a lot of great things for this world. our little community has done great things for the world. That's because we're all close and we work together. We're all family. We need to get back to that. We can't let a church destroy us. That's my opinion. So on to our action item. I need a motion. Which way you guys want to go?
Make a motion, we adopt a resolution requiring additional 30 days.
Okay, there's a motion. Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
First and a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Resolution number 2019-55, resolution approving a case number PP-9-2019-203 and FP-9-2019-206, preliminary and final plat of Jenny Acres requested by Michael and Jennifer McCann.
You have before you tonight an application for preliminary and final plat of a residential subdivision. It is basically splitting one larger lot into two lots. Because both of the lots are under 5 acres, both lots need to be platted, and that is what is before you tonight. If you want further detail, I can go into greater detail. It's probably a pretty quick summary.
Planning and zoning is all.
Planning and zoning made the recommendations at their September meeting and recommended approval, as I indicated previously. There were some changes to the recommendations between that meeting and this meeting due to their modifications to their preliminary and final plat.
Okay. Is there any questions or concerns, or can I get a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, any second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Fire chief appointments, only applicant we had was Chief Buddy. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, say, okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We're on a new business agreement between Stearns County and the City of Melrose for providing early voting to the residents of Stearns County. Who would like to talk to that?
I would, but I'd screwed up.
Okay. Patty?
I'm sorry.
9A.
You want to take
I'm sorry, no.
No, 9A. We're on 9A.
Okay.
Can you just talk a little bit about the early voting? You're in charge of that, right?
Oh, well, I'm not sure. Stearns County is looking to have early voting here for all of Stearns County residents 7 days prior to, we have the new presidential primary in March, and then of course the primary in August, and then again the general election in November. So they're asking the City of Melrose to be a early voting place for Stearns County, and we do get compensated as per the agreement that's in front of you.
Okay.
Does that mean that, like, somebody can walk in on a Thursday, ask for a ballot, fill it out, seal it, and...
Actually, what they're going to try and do this year is, because we're only going to be doing the 7 day prior, they're doing actually absentee vote, I think it's like 46 days prior to an election, but the City of Melrose would just be doing 7 days, and they're going to actually have the election machine set up so you don't have to do the envelopes and stuff, so you would actually just put your ballot right into the
CML
machine.
So it'd be an additional week?
A week, yes.
Or 5 working days or 7 working days?
Actually, it'll be the Tuesday before, so it'll be 7, well, not Sunday, but Saturday, we would be required to be open from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. that Saturday.
We'll have a staff member sitting in probably this area.
There has to actually be 2 election judges. It'll be probably myself and another election judge, because we are required to have 2 people here.
You're going to get a lot of overtime next year, huh?
But the Stearns County does reimburse, and for the presidential primary, actually, the state is going to be reimbursing some of those expenses, not all, but some.
Okay. I think it's good for our citizens.
It is a nice convenience, it
Yep.
is.
You want us to vote on this?
Yeah, but we have to,
Okay.
we have to enter into a contract with them if you approve.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
Second.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Elevator inspectance, maintenance quote. Is there any issues with Anybody on that? Or can I get a motion to approve it?
I'll make a motion.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Proposed 2020 meeting schedule, do you guys have any issues with it?
There's actually been several changes, I think.
Do you want me to just pass these down?
Yeah. I didn't grab one. Yep.
We're keeping it the third Thursday, right? Don't mess me up.
No, it's not that part. There's just, if you guys would indulge me for a second, I can kind of go through those changes with you. It's actually the other boards, but specifically related to the city council, I am making a request. Normally you would meet on January 2nd, which falls on a Thursday this year. I am actually, this is my request, please. If we could please meet, because it's going to be a very short meeting, if we could meet Monday, January 6th. My oldest daughter is in town and I won't, she's only in town for a short period of time, so.
Bring her with.
Bring her with. And then.
Then she won't come back.
Then the other things that we just have on here that I want you to be aware of is there, on February 20th is our normal council meeting, but we would also like to have a joint meeting with the Public Utilities Commission and the department heads. As part of that night, it will be a strategic planning meeting. That time is to be determined. We know that you guys would prefer to have meetings like together versus having extra days, so that's why we planned it that way. Of course, there's a local Board of Appeals and Equalization meeting on April 16th. And then we have the 2 budget meetings in there. These again will be workshops on August 20th and November 19th with a regular budget hearing on December 17th. Also, and we can talk about this more when we get to strategic planning, but I think it's something that I have mentioned to the council that I would like to see the council host a town hall meeting sometime next year. So, and what that looks like, there's in June, right? No, it would not be in June, it would be when the mayor's here. So typically those town hall meetings, we open it up. You can do it a number of ways, but what I've seen and what is very effective is you open it up to the public, and so all of your different departments are here, and then they have displays, and people can go around and ask questions. So, you know, if there's certain things that the police department has some education on, people can talk to the police department. They can talk to engineering and streets and see what projects are coming up, what the scheduling is. So it's just an opportunity for folks to interact with city staff when they wouldn't necessarily normally have that opportunity, and really to ask those questions one-on-one. And then it goes into a regular meeting whereby it's somewhat an open forum for an hour. So folks can come in here and they can just ask the council different questions and make comments or whatever. So again, it's just a suggestion. I'm not saying it's something you have to do, but I do think it would be a nice thing to take a look at in 2020.
It's a good idea. We did do this a couple times, you know, Jan, you might remember, Gary. We did it the same day as like the fire department open house, and then they open up, you know, the streets department, even the wastewater department. People could actually go around the community and look at different things, and we were giving them like a light bulb, or if they stopped at different things, they were given. It's an idea, whatever works for you.
Yeah.
I just, you know, that was, you know,
Free month
when our
of
other
electricity.
administrator was here.
Plunger at the.
So it might be an idea. So whatever you guys want to do, I am excited about it. I think it would be good.
Yeah, and it, you know, obviously it's, I look to the mayor and the council to decide how they want to structure that, but certainly I think we just put it down there as something that we'd take a look at. So that's all I had about the meeting schedule.
Miss Patty, just general consent then on the
Yes.
meetings? I've got no issues with the schedule.
Yeah. And the June 6th meeting, that takes like 15 minutes. We wouldn't be late for firemen's, I know, so should work. So I have no problem. You need a motion for it?
Consensus.
Consensus? You guys good? All right.
We're good.
Now we're on to informational items, schools and conferences, utility commission meeting minutes, pay equity, compliance. Thank you. So can I get a motion to adjourn, please?
I'll make a motion.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
sure that the consent agenda got approved?
Yes.
Yes, it did.
I actually,
Yeah, we-
my fault, but.
That's all right, we let you go.
Sorry about that.
Yeah,
I'll own it.
so,
Mistake I made.
that's okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.